The day I decided to divorce Callista was a very ordinary day. It snowed heavily that day and I caught a bad cold. I subconsciously moved closer to Callista. Callista held up an umbrella and stared straight ahead. But when I approached her, she quietly moved away from me a few steps. After returning home, I looked at myself in the mirror, covered in snow and in a mess. Without a clear mind, I made the best decision of my life. Callista, let's get a divorce. You are free. The north wind was howling in my face, and the heavy snow hit my face like gravel. I felt my forehead getting hot, and I subconsciously looked up. The big black umbrella stood right above Callista's head, but it only covered the right half of my body. I quickly took Callista's arm and moved closer to her. The snow falling on my body was less. Callista frowned, said nothing, but changed her hand to hold the umbrella. Her hand that I held also dropped down. After walking a few steps, we returned to the way we were before. I looked at the falling snow on my left shoulder and stopped. Callista didn't notice and kept walking forward. Maybe she noticed it but was just too lazy to wait for me. I looked back. There were very few people on the street, so the two lines of footprints on the snow were particularly obvious. They were parallel, and at a certain moment they suddenly shortened. But soon they were pulled apart and returned to their original tracks, just like my life and Callista's life should not have intersected. At this moment, I suddenly felt very tired. Callista, I called out, and the sound quickly dissipated in the wind and snow. Callista seemed to have just realized that I was missing, and there was a hint of impatience in her expression. What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? Why are you so slow? Why are you so stupid? I had heard these words countless times in the 3 years I had been with Callista. In the past, I always reflected over and over again whether I had really done something wrong. But today, my drowsy brain left me no time to waste my energy. I said calmly, I have a cold. Callista frowned, and the irritation on her face became even worse. You didn't keep yourself warm, and now you tell me you have a cold? Brian, you are an adult now. Can't you take care of yourself? I won't go to the hospital with you, Callista said, and turned around to leave. But I grabbed her. I didn't plan to let you go to the hospital with me. I have a cold, so I don't want to go to the restaurant you mentioned in the snow. Also, this umbrella is mine. Can you give it back to me? I want to go home. Callista's eyebrows hardened. This was a sign that she was going to be angry. In the past, I would soften my temper and coax her at this time. But today, I just looked at her quietly. Callista didn't say anything and threw the umbrella on the ground. I picked up the umbrella and walked in the opposite direction step by step. A cold gaze followed me from behind, but I never looked back once. After returning home, I just felt a splitting headache and almost couldn't stand. I weakly held the doorframe. When I looked up, I saw myself in the mirror. The snow that fell on me before had melted long ago, and almost half of my body was wet. The small suit I wore specially for this date was now unevenly soaked. The broken hair on my forehead was plastered to my face. The stubble on my face was not shaved clean, showing the extremely pale face underneath due to illness. It was so embarrassing. I reached out and touched my face in the mirror. It looked so miserable. This face used to be full of sunny smiles. Brian, how did you get yourself into this state? Brian, why did you make yourself so miserable for a woman? I shook my head, trying to wake myself up. My phone vibrated. It was my brother Jonathan who sent me a photo. In the photo, Callista was sitting at the dining table in elegant clothes, picking up food for the man opposite her who was behaving gentlemanly. Below the photo was a 60-second voice message. Shouta, is this your Dr. Callista? Didn't you say you were going out on a date with Dr. Callista today? How come I saw her having dinner with another man in Century New City? That man seemed to be a worker at that restaurant. I didn't hear what the waiter said next. My eyes were fixed on Callista in the photo. She was looking at the man opposite her tenderly, with a soft and restrained look in her eyes. She was completely different from the way she looked when she asked me what was wrong in a harsh tone just now. My originally drowsy mind suddenly became clear. I thought that the dull person had finally come to his senses. After 2 years of marriage, Callista finally knew that she needed to be romantic. It turned out that she took me to that restaurant not because of romance, but because there was someone she wanted to meet there. It turned out that it was all my own wishful thinking. My eyes fell on the man in the photo. The man was wearing the uniform in the restaurant, with a look of surprise and helplessness on his face. I didn't want to explore what the relationship between this man and Callista was. What kind of relationship could it be that made Callista go to see someone in the snow? I was thinking about it when Jonathan sent me another photo. In the photo, Callista, who always had mysophobia, was holding a tissue and wiping the sauce from the corner of the man's mouth affectionately. This time, Jonathan said nothing, only sent a question mark. My head seemed to start to hurt again. I lay on the sofa and suddenly remembered a long time ago. That was when we had just gotten married. It was a friend's birthday and the cake was smeared everywhere. I asked Callista to help me wipe the cream off my face. Callista took out a few tissues from her pocket with a look of disgust and asked me to wipe it myself. She seemed to say something else. What was it? My head hurts, but I still remember it. She said, "My car had just been washed. If it's not clean, just take a taxi home." That day I squatted on the side of the road cleaning for a long time. When I wanted to get in the car, Callista pointed at my trouser leg where there was a small piece of the chocolate. The early winter wind made people shiver. I begged Callista to let me get in the car. I promised to be careful and not get any chocolate on the car. Callista pursed her lips. She said that she respected my living habits and hoped that I would respect hers. So that night, even though I begged her for a long time on the side of the road, and even though we had just gotten married at that time, Callista still drove away without looking back. And now, Callista's gentle movements in the photo seemed to have slapped me hard. It told me that Callista was not as cold as I thought. Callista was just cold to me. Tears rolled down my eyes and then they wouldn't stop. I propped myself up and stood up from the sofa, trying to find evidence of our love in our home. But there was nothing. In the wedding photos, Callista had a stern face and only I was smiling. I was the only one taking care of the flowers on the balcony. During the business trip, I asked Callista to help water the flowers. When I came back, the jasmine plants that were already in full bloom and had buds all withered and died. I was the only one using the couple's cups we bought together. As for Callista's, well, she said she accidentally broke it. The hand holding the cup loosened slightly. And with a snap, the cup fell to the ground and shattered. Now mine was broken too. Just like the feelings I had for Callista for so many years, which were also shattered on this day. I took out my mobile phone and found a friend who was a lawyer. I sent him a money transfer of several $1,000s and asked him to help me draft a divorce agreement. Then I opened the chat box with Callista. It's funny to say that in order not to miss any messages from Callista over the years, I had always kept Callista's chat box at the top of the list. However, the number of times she took the initiative to send me messages was very few. I unpinned it and typed 3 words without hesitation. Let's get a divorce. I waited for a while, but there was no reply from the other party. She was right. Callista was holding a handsome guy now. So how could she have the time to reply to my messages? I touched my forehead, which was still very hot. I found the fever-reducing medication in the medicine box and swallowed it with cold water. I wrapped myself in the quilt and fell into a deep sleep. I slept for a long time. And when I woke up again, it was already the next morning. Maybe it was because the medication was too strong, or maybe I had finally made up my mind to leave the person who kept wasting my time. When I woke up in the morning, I felt relaxed all over. Even my nose was no longer blocked. The room was very messy. The umbrella I threw away when I came back yesterday was still lying on the floor, leaving a puddle of water. Callista should not have come back all night. It seemed that she must have had a lot of fun yesterday. I opened my phone and found that my friend had already drafted the divorce agreement and posted an emoji of setting off fireworks. It turned out that they all knew that my marriage with Callista was not happy. I chuckled, thanked my friend, and called my boss to ask for a week's leave. I had to say goodbye to my past self. After all, I had loved Callista sincerely for many years. After I simply packed my luggage, I took the nearest flight to Yunnan province. I heard that in winter, many seagulls would migrate from faraway places. Before I got married, I had planned my honeymoon trip to Yunnan province. But Callista always said that she was very busy getting promoted to attending physician, busy performing surgery on patients. In her busy life, I always seemed to be the last one. I watched countless seagulls fly up from the blue water. They circled in the sky in groups of 2 or 3. One even landed at my feet. I exhaled heavily. As if all the fatigue of these years disappeared at that moment. It turned out that it was so easy to live according to my heart without caring about other people's time and preferences. The cell phone rang suddenly, interrupting my rare tranquility. Callista's name kept flashing on the screen. I frowned. To be honest, I didn't want to hear Callista's voice when I was so relaxed. But thinking about the divorce, I still answered the phone. You want a divorce? Callista's voice was as cold as ever, as if she were talking about a trivial matter. I hummed softly. There was no response from the other end for a long time. Just when I lost my patience and wanted to hang up the phone, a weak male voice came in. Dr. Callista, you should have a good talk with Mr. Bryan. Maybe there is some misunderstanding. For no reason, I was almost sure that the voice was the voice of the man in the restaurant. I couldn't help but laugh softly. You see, there is no such thing as being too busy to go out on a date or out for a meal. Don't you have plenty of time to accompany your beloved? I have already drafted the divorce agreement and will send it to you later. When you have time, let's go to the Civil Affairs Bureau to get the divorce certificate together. I paused and asked sarcastically. Dr. Callista is not so busy that she doesn't even have time to get a divorce? Callista's voice was a little angry. Bryan, it's a pity that I hung up the phone before she finished speaking and added her number to the blacklist. After all, I really didn't want to hear the unpleasant voices of Callista and that man again in such a beautiful place. I played in Yunnan province for a week and only came back in a hurry on the night before the end of the vacation. Just as I turned the key in the door lock, there was a sound of porcelain breaking from inside the door, followed by a man's exclamation and a woman's soft comfort. I frowned. I don't remember which relatives or friends I gave the key to. Only Callista and I had the key to this door. It couldn't be that Callista brought that man home, right? I turned the door lock and saw the scene in front of me. The brows that were tightly furrowed just now suddenly relaxed. Oh, it was really her. I leaned against the door and smiled as I watched my wife carefully treat the wound of another man. I had seen this man before. Callista braved the snow in the restaurant and went to see me even though I was sick. The man leaned his head on Callista's shoulder and said gently, Dr. Callista, you are so kind. As the two of them got closer and closer, they were about to kiss. I cleared my throat at the right time. You too. There are other people here. Why are you so impatient to kiss in my house? Don't you even have money to get a room? When she heard my voice, Callista raised her head abruptly. She almost subconsciously pushed the man leaning on her away. Bryan, you are back. Yes, if I didn't come back, you would have rolled into bed. Nathan and I are not in that kind of relationship you think. Callista said, and when she saw the suitcase behind me, her eyes suddenly showed resentment. I haven't asked you yet. Where have you been these days? I couldn't get through to you on the phone. Yeah, since you couldn't contact me. You brought him home? Nathan nervously grabbed Callista's arm. He shook his head desperately to explain to me. No, Mr. Bryan, Dr. Callista and I are innocent. I have liver cancer and don't have enough money to be hospitalized. It was Dr. Callista who took pity on me and let me stay here temporarily. It was like he had been hit at a sore spot. As Nathan spoke, tears fell from his eyes. He looked so pitiful. Callista immediately protected Nathan behind her and looked at me coldly. Bryan, can you please talk properly? I've said that I'm innocent with Nathan. But you're still so aggressive. With your temper. It's no wonder that your father abandoned your mother. After Callista finished speaking, there was a brief silence in the room. Originally, when I saw Callista protecting Nathan behind her, I felt a little uncomfortable. But now, I just felt disgusted. Liking Callista was truly repulsive. Callista was in a panic trying to explain. I just stared at her coldly. Callista, this apartment was bought for me by my mother before we got married. Do you remember? I was just angry just now and didn't mean what I said. Bryan, listen to my explanation. Get out. What? Callista looked at me in disbelief. I looked into Callista's eyes and said word by word. I said, get out. Mr. Bryan, Dr. Callista really didn't mean it. You are husband and wife. Why can't you talk nicely? When people are angry, they really will laugh for no reason. I turned my head and looked at Callista. Do you still remember what you sent me recently? Do you want me to take it out now for everyone to see? Nathan immediately withdrew and didn't dare to speak anymore. But I looked at Nathan's clothes and felt a sense of familiarity. I went back to the room and opened my closet. Sure enough, it had been turned into a mess. The coat I bought was gone. Even the skincare products on the dressing table had decreased significantly. And many watches were missing. I rubbed my temples. And when I looked at Callista again, I felt a throbbing pain in my head. You allowed him to take my things. Callista pursed her lips tightly. She didn't understand why I was holding on to Nathan so tightly. Now that she saw me looking at Nathan the way one looks at a thief. Callista also became irritated and snapped. Aren't they just a few pieces of clothing? Brian, aren't you overreacting a bit today? I really have nothing to do with Nathan. I just feel sorry for him because he has cancer and wanted to help him. Brian, can't you be a little more compassionate? And you still talk about getting a divorce? Who was it that begged me to love them and insisted on pursuing me? Now that you've succeeded in catching me, you're going to deny it? Callista's tone carried a trace of grievance by the end, but I didn't have the heart to listen. I took out my phone and waved it at Nathan. The coat you're wearing, I bought it at the mall last week. The tags are still on and the receipts are intact. The total was $3.700. There are also other clothes and accessories missing from the closet. The total value should be over $10. That meets the threshold for opening a case. Sir, repay the money. Or, the charges of illegal entry and theft should be enough to put you behind bars for a few days. Nathan parted his lips slightly. Tears fell freely. He almost instinctively grabbed Callista's arm and looked at her with tearful eyes. Callista was about to speak, but I raised my hand to stop her. And you, if you feel sorry for him, you used my house, clothes, and accessories to pity him. Callista, why didn't I realize you were this shameless before? I took out the divorce agreement from my bag and tossed it on the table. This is my home. Sign the divorce agreement and leave with your little lover. Otherwise, tomorrow morning every hospital in the city will know that you, Dr. Callista, are having an affair with a patient. I narrowed my eyes at Callista. You're about to be promoted to chief physician soon, right? Callista's expression shifted. She had been preparing materials for the attending physician evaluation for the past couple of months. I didn't think she'd give that up so easily. Sure enough, after a moment's thought, Callista decided to take Nathan and go. Before leaving, Callista softened her expression and spoke gently for the first time. Brian, I know you may have misunderstood. It's okay. Let's separate for a few days and calm down. It's also my fault for not thinking it through. I'll find another place for Nathan to stay, Callista said, preparing to leave with Nathan. I raised my hand to stop them. Wait, Callista looked at me in surprise. Brian, I knew you. I pointed at the divorce agreement on the table. You, sign it before you leave. And you. I nodded toward Nathan and opened the payment QR code on my phone. Cash or bank card? Nathan blushed and stood awkwardly without a word. This sight clearly struck Callista as me bullying him again. She furiously signed the divorce agreement, then pulled me aside. You knew he had no money. Why would you treat him like that? It's just over $10, right? I can pay it back for him. I shook my head. No, if you pay it back, it'll count as using marital assets. And I'll still lose out. So what do you want? She asked. I looked up, and suddenly a memory from 2 years ago flashed through my mind. Callista sitting in her luxurious car, watching me squat in the cold evening to wipe cream off my coat. My lips curled slightly. I want your car. Brian, the house and savings go to you in the divorce. Can't I even keep the car? I pointed a finger. First, this house was my premarital property. You could never afford a house in Haicheng on your own. Second, you're the one at fault. I'm giving you the car out of kindness. Finally, I smiled at Nathan. You don't have to repay it for him. Callista's face darkened with anger. She gritted her teeth and handed me the car keys. Brian, I never knew you were this kind of person. I waved the keys in front of her. Goodbye, ex-wife. I'll be waiting at the Civil Affairs Bureau at 9 a.m. tomorrow. If you're busy, don't bother coming, but by then, your photos with Mr. Nathan might be posted all over the hospital. Callista stormed out with Nathan. I smiled watching them leave, but as the door shut behind them, I collapsed to the floor in exhaustion. From age 20 to 25, I loved Callista for 5 years. I pursued her for 2. The day she said yes, I thought I'd love her forever. But how did the proud, upright girl who once stood proudly under the national flag become like this? It's sickening. I closed my eyes and wiped away the tears. Maybe the flag was too bright and blinded me. Or maybe I'd always been in love with an idealized version of Callista. Either way, it was over. I stood up with the help of the doorframe and looked around the house that now felt unfamiliar. A pungent perfume smell lingered in the air. The place felt tainted. I contacted a real estate agent I had saved and asked him to help sell the house. Looking at the car keys I tossed aside, I added that I also had a car to sell. Thinking about strangers sleeping in my bed, or Callista and Nathan being intimate there, sent a shiver down my spine. I scanned the house one last time and found nothing worth keeping. So I packed my suitcase and checked into a hotel for the night. As for letting Nathan live in her house, it was even more of a misunderstanding. Nathan had no money to pay the rent, was driven out by the landlord, and became homeless. He happened to be met by Callista, so she brought him home to stay for a few days. Who knew I would happen to run into him? Callista said a lot in one breath and then looked at me hopefully. Brian, I explained everything clearly. It was all a misunderstanding. I just felt sorry for Nathan, who had this disease at such a young age. So I paid more attention to him. Now you can rest assured. Right? I just sneered and opened Nathan's chat box on my phone. A misunderstanding? So the fact that you two were lying naked in the same bed was also a misunderstanding? You were holding him because you felt sorry for him? Callista's face turned pale. She snatched the phone from my hand and looked through it carefully. Nathan had added me a week ago, which meant Callista took him home the day after I left. Nathan didn't say a word in the chat history, which was full of various photos, some of Callista's back as she cooked in the kitchen, some of her profile sitting on the sofa playing with her phone. The last photo was taken on my bed. Both of them were naked. Callista was asleep, and Nathan lay in her arms, making a peace sign at the camera. Callista's lips trembled. No, listen to my explanation. Okay, I'll listen. I took the phone back and sat across from Callista. That night was an accident. Nathan said he was very scared, afraid his disease couldn't be cured. We had a few drinks, and then he rolled onto the bed. I found it more and more ridiculous. Callista, Nathan has liver cancer, right? And you still wanted to drink? Callista closed her eyes in pain. He cried very sadly at the time. I felt soft-hearted. I clicked my tongue. Callista, you said you felt sorry for Nathan's illness. But I've been back so long. Did you even ask if my cold was better? You said you couldn't contact me. Yet you just contacted Jonathan. And I smiled, taking out a stack of printed photos from my bag and placing them in front of her. There are so many patients in the world. Why do you feel sorry only for a random male college graduate? Dr. Callista, should I ask your hospital dean if he believes this reason? Callista stared at the stack of photos of her and Nathan in bed. Her lips trembled for a long time before she closed her eyes and said painfully, Brian, do we really have to be like this? Don't you love me? Must you ruin my reputation before you're satisfied? I slowly put the photos back into my bag and stood up. Don't talk nonsense. Let's go finish the formalities quickly. I have work later. Callista followed me in a daze. The divorce process went smoothly. After filling out the divorce form, the staff told us to return in 30 days. Before leaving, I pointed to my bag. Don't forget. 1 month later, Callista pursed her lips and said nothing. I couldn't be bothered to look at her again and turned to leave. The house was listed with an agency, but I forgot to get the key from Callista. I simply changed the lock, packed my luggage, and moved in with Jonathan. When Jonathan learned I was divorcing Callista, he jumped with joy and almost opened champagne to celebrate. I really don't know what kind of spell Callista cast on you in the beginning. Even I couldn't stand it. Jonathan sighed, but when he saw I wasn't sad, he looked at me mysteriously. You really let it go? I nodded. Yeah, I really let it go. Jonathan looked at me and grinned maliciously. She and Nathan treated you like that, and you're just going to let it end with divorce? Bro, I have some connections. I understood what he meant and gave him a reassuring look. Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. A month passed quickly. Maybe she knew there was no turning back. On the morning we collected the divorce certificate, Callista was calm. It wasn't until she got the red booklet that she said with disappointment, Brian, we're divorced. From now on, we have no connection. Her voice was slightly choked. For the sake of our years together, please don't make things difficult for Xiao Cheng and me anymore. I raised my eyebrows. Only a month, and you've already moved from Nathan to Xiao Cheng? I didn't say more. I turned and saw Nathan standing awkwardly at the Civil Affairs Bureau door. After a month, he had lost weight, his face pale as paper. Seeing him, Callista quickly embraced him and comforted him gently, until she noticed me. Her body stiffened, unsure whether to hold Nathan or let go. I sneered, didn't look back, and left. That night, I heard Callista and Nathan encountered a gang. To protect him, Callista fought 5 people alone and was badly beaten. Nathan hid behind a trash can, crying, "Stop fighting." Looking at the videos and photos Jonathan's contacts sent, Jonathan and I exchanged a glance. My eyes landed on the familiar necklace around Nathan's neck. I curled my lips. Don't be impatient. It's not over yet. I saw Callista again outside my company. She sat slumped by the flower bed. When she saw me, she rushed forward. "Brian, is it you?" I gave her a strange look and turned to leave. But she grabbed me, her eyes fierce. "Someone reported to the hospital that I practiced medicine recklessly and seduced a patient." "It's nonsense. Brian, it was you, right? You're taking revenge on me." I stopped, lips curling mockingly. "So, what makes you think it was me?" Callista screamed, grabbing my neck. "Because of your complaint, I wasn't promoted and was suspended. You wanted a divorce, and I agreed. I even left the house with nothing. What more do you want? You've ruined my 10 years of hard work." Her hands tightened. Fortunately, it was rush hour, and people pulled her off me. The suffocating feeling lingered. I was furious and slapped Callista several times. "Are you insane? You said the patients complained about your malpractice. Why blame me? I don't even know your patients." Callista's eyes darkened. She kept whispering, "It was the patients, it was the patients." The people around looked at each other. The people who had held Callista saw that she had calmed down. So they let her go. However, Callista seemed to have lost her soul. She lowered her head and whispered, "It's the patient. It's him." I looked at Callista's back and shook my head. It must be unpleasant to be hurt by the person closest to you. After returning home, I opened the video sent to me by the private detective. In the video, Callista's emotions seemed to have calmed down. She went to the vegetable market to buy a lot of vegetables and started cooking after returning home. I couldn't help but frown when I saw the dishes made by Callista. These dishes were all greasy and spicy foods that she liked to eat. But are they really suitable for Nathan? A liver cancer patient? Callista didn't feel anything wrong until Nathan came home from got off work. Callista's behavior was very normal. At the dinner table, Callista seemed to mention unintentionally that she was fired by the hospital. Nathan's expression was a little flustered, but he quickly returned to normal. He comforted Callista in a gentle voice. But Callista suddenly grinned. "Xiao Cheng, didn't you tell me before that chemotherapy was too expensive? Now I'm suspended. All the savings have been given to Brian. Aren't you afraid of having no money for treatment?" The expression on Nathan's face froze for a moment. Then he threw himself into Callista's arms and choked up, saying, "It doesn't matter, Callista, as long as I can be with you. I'm willing to die, right?" Callista gently stroked Nathan's hair, and the two of them were affectionate again. After dinner, Nathan went to take a shower. Callista sat on the sofa, not knowing what she was thinking for a long time. She slowly picked up Nathan's mobile phone, flipped through it for a long time, and then went to the kitchen to pick up a kitchen knife. The video was interrupted here. The private detective said that when he saw Callista pick up a kitchen knife and squat at the bathroom door, he called the police. Nathan was seriously injured and hospitalized, and Callista had been taken back to the police station. I turned off my phone and my whole body relaxed. Callista was right. It was indeed me who was taking revenge on her. I saw it from a stack of hospital bills that Nathan left in my room. From then on, Callista was responsible for Nathan's medical expenses. Nathan needed money for medicine and chemotherapy. Before the divorce, Callista still had savings to squander. But after the divorce, Callista's salary was not enough to support Nathan's medical expenses. So I gave Nathan $500 and asked him to report Callista anonymously. He was reluctant at first, but when he found that his condition was gradually worsening, he suddenly agreed. Maybe he also found out that Callista had no medical ethics at all. She didn't ask him to abstain from certain foods, and sometimes she would urge him to have a few drinks, saying that it was more interesting. Nathan's mid-stage liver cancer was delayed by Callista to the mid to late stage of liver cancer. But it was obvious that Nathan approached Callista in order to cure his disease at the beginning. So he reported Callista without hesitation. At the beginning, I just wanted Callista to lose this job. But I didn't expect it to turn out like this. I sighed and can only say that the wicked will be punished by God. Nathan eventually died on the operating table. Callista was also sentenced to death for intentional homicide. Before the execution of the sentence, Callista said she wanted to see me. But I didn't go. I could almost guess what she was going to say. Which was always something she knew was wrong. There is no point in saying regrets. But why should I waste my time on someone who is not worth it? I have already wasted 5 years on Callista. From now on, I want to live for myself. The end.